Good morning. My name is Craig Penn, and I was diagnosed in 2009 with stage 3 Gleason 8, and I'm happy to be here with undetectable disease for 5 years. So, hey, thank you, medical environment. Terry's got us on a very short time leash, but I'll try not to talk quite as fast as the docs yesterday. We're here this morning to talk about the A in SEA, awareness, and a letter that isn't in SEA, F, fundraising. And in the alphabet, A comes before F, and likewise, awareness has to come before fundraising. So I Googled the phrase breast cancer awareness and got 52,900,000 results. Do the same thing for prostate cancer awareness, and you get just slightly over 1 million. So while there's growing public awareness about prostate cancer, we still have a big awareness gap. However, a guaranteed way, I think, not to close the gap is to simply imitate something that's already out there. So frankly, I don't think there's much chance that Blue September will ever achieve the same public awareness and, yes, notoriety as Pink October. So we need strategies that are more than just blue ribbons. So this morning we're talking about building awareness at the grassroots, the local level. But first, some groundwork. I've been a marketing guy for almost 40 years, and regardless of the product or the cause, there are 2 fundamentals that we need to know before we launch any marketing or awareness campaign. First, know who your customers are. Second, know what they want. So today and into the future, the vast majority of our customers are going to be members of the baby boom generation who were born between 1946 and 1964, and many of you, including myself, are sitting right here in this room this morning. The sheer number of aging boomers is projected to increase prostate cancer diagnoses from about 220,000 this year to more than 300,000 in 2030 when the late lagging edge boomers born in 1964 start turning 65. But in order to get to this target market or these target customers, we have to understand what we boomers, and I'm a boomer so I'm going to talk about me too, want, and that, to use the marketing term, what we aspire to. So boomers have been called the Peter Pan generation, obsessed with beauty and health, and above all, never growing old. Bob Dylan's song, Forever Young, is our generational anthem. And if you've ever watched Parenthood on TV, you already know that. But like our parents, boomers, especially men, don't want to talk about disease, and certainly not about cancer, even though we rank Alzheimer's and cancer as our greatest health concerns. Nor, as boomers, are we particularly trusting of authority, and as adults, having watched MASH, ER, Grey's Anatomy, instead of Marcus Welby, we definitely do not see doctors as gods in white lab coats, the lab coats this morning notwithstanding. This is also the generation that began the free speech movement, populated the Vietnam protests, and went on to become parents who were actively, or some would say overactively, involved in the lives of our children. So fire still burns in many boomer bellies, and these are the folks that we want to find who will happily adopt a new cause if they can feel they're making a positive difference, even if they don't actually have or even can get prostate cancer. So how do we find these I want to make a difference boomers who will become advocates more than happy to spread awareness and passion, and then just as happily ask other people for money? So I think at our core, we boomers are seeking honest relationships, be they face-to-face or in cyberspace, and it's relationships that will get a boomer's attention. So I suggest there are 3 principles that we want to develop, we need to follow in order to develop these honest relationships that will become the basis of building awareness, and they are visibility, creativity, and connection. So successful advertising is built on the principle of repetitive visibility. This is not just organizational visibility like Us Two and Zero and the others, but personal, one-on-one visibility. It can be simple things like wearing a blue wristband or a blue ribbon lapel pin if you happen to wear jackets. I'm from California and I don't wear one. But it might be also crazy things like getting a tattoo on your wrist that says prostate cancer survivor, only it's written in the Elvish script from Lord of the Rings. But it certainly generated a lot of conversations with cashiers, desk clerks, and wait persons. And of course, there's Movember in November, which had more than 4 million participants this past year. So visibility is big. The second principle is creativity. And there are all kinds of things happening in the prostate cancer community that are far more creative than just turning things blue. And fun is an important aspect of creativity, and you're going to hear about that more this morning. But there's also fun stuff like Kilted to Kick Cancer, an organization based where I live in the, yes, admittedly wacky San Francisco Bay Area, which is comprised of young and women would tell you handsome cops, firemen, and EMTs who wear blue kilts in public to raise awareness about cancer in general and prostate cancer in particular. These are guys who are definitely willing to be visible in a very creative way. Up in Canada this week, it's Wear Plaid for Dad, and lots of well-dressed men and women are suddenly appearing all over Facebook wearing plaid shirts, ties, skirts, and even some plaid kilts. You'll notice that it's visibility without even mentioning the word cancer. Or it may be very sweet things like Linda Hetker's Petey the Prostate Crusader. And Linda is here and she needs to wave her hand, because if you don't know about Petey, you missed him at the party last night. He appears in all kinds of guises all over the internet, and he is a visible testament to the fact that prostate cancer, more than any other, is a couple's disease. Linda's also an inspiring example of how one person can take something small but highly creative and build so much momentum that last year she persuaded the Ohio state legislature to issue a proclamation declaring September to be Prostate Cancer Awareness Month, something that particular legislature had never done before. And this year she's well on her way to her goal of getting every mayor in every city and town in Ohio, and there must be hundreds because you're already at 156, at getting every one of them to proclaim an official proclamation proclaiming prostate cancer awareness. Which brings us to the third. I didn't write pause for applause, sorry about that. Okay, that brings us to the third principle, which is building human connections, which is about personal stories, not about abstractions. And how do we build those connections with the world at large? It's simple things, such as telling your story as a patient or as a caregiver to groups like Rotary or churches. And at the end of the talk, wait for the men and women who come up afterwards to tell you their own stories about prostate cancer. Everybody has encountered it. I'm sure if you've been diagnosed, you find that out quickly. And as we heard yesterday, just listening is a powerful way to make that personal connection. There's 20th century print media, press releases and articles in local newspapers, church and hospital newsletters, and even magazines that are directed at cancer patients. All these media are always hungry for personal stories. And if you are hopelessly overambitious, you can even write a book about your own story. Then in the fast-growing world of 21st century media, which is redefining, I think, the meaning of local, the internet allows local marketing to have global impact. Social media like Facebook, Twitter, and blogs offer unprecedented awareness-building opportunities. And if people can post what they had for dinner on Facebook, then by God, you can post something about prostate cancer without fear of embarrassment. There are many prostate cancer Facebook groups out there, ranging from online support groups where anything can be posted and not always about prostate cancer. I happen to be a member of a reluctant brotherhood. That's why there's a little confusion here, is there's the and a, which is a Facebook group that has 191 members, ranging from guys who don't even have prostate cancer to active surveillance to stage 4 guys, and we're spread across the US, Canada, and the UK. And even though I've only met a few of them face to face, we all consider ourselves to be brothers. In short, we are connected. One thing I need to say about online stuff, however, especially social media and blogs, is that they are ravenous for content. So once you commit to building a Facebook page or writing a blog, you have to keep feeding it. New posts, new tweets, new everything on an ongoing basis. So we have visibility, creativity, connections. We've only scratched the surface here, but don't forget, we boomers, even we boomer men, are far more relational than our greatest generation parents. So virtually any effort we can make to build connections with other human beings through our stories, in person, in print, online, raises awareness, creates passion, and ultimately generates contributions right here at the grassroots where our individual efforts really do make a difference. Thank you. safe way.
There you go.
Well prepared, Craig. George, we're going to ask you to come up next, and you're going to do a case study for us about an annual campaign, right?
Yeah.
All righty.
I think I'm Mike, so I don't have to.
All right. That's good.
All right. It's hard to ask people for money. It's been a real fight in my group and with the people who I try to get to send out cards. It's tough. I try to appeal to their better natures, but it just seems like even though we justify the cause, they just refuse to ask for donations. Any success we have had in our Wilmington, North Carolina support group is because, number one, we maintain a roster of names, full addresses, zips, telephone numbers, and email addresses. I've been a little concerned that some of our groups only go by email. So I don't think the email solicitation is as effective as having a mailed out. We mail about 200 cards each campaign. That doesn't cover our whole group because I use about 30 cards myself to send to friends, former coworkers, people who know me, know my case. And in fact, I got a $100 donation from a guy I worked with 22 years ago. I make a personal handwritten appeal in each envelope. And by the way, this is the first year I've used a return address label for my prostate group. But I hand address all of them to everyone. I also, in this particular campaign, it was a little hard to tell whether it was a campaign or an invitation to the anniversary of a celebration. So I circled a couple of things so that they would know what it is. Also, I also indicate inside on this what group it's coming from. I write Wilmington inside. So if someone sends in a contribution, they know it comes from us. I also put a personal note inside. This one to a fictitious guy says, "John, please consider a donation to us too in honor of or in memory of someone special. Thanks from your support group," and I sign it each time. I change the message as I know people. If the people know that I have a slight recurrence, I always mention that. There's nothing better than to get personal information into these appeals. So, let's see. The mailing has led to an upgrading of our roster. There are guys who joined our group 10 years ago, 5 years ago. They've moved once or twice. We still have their same email address, but we don't know where they are. So we might send out a card and it'll come back, he doesn't live there anymore. So that puts me on the phone and I'm able to upgrade our list. Unfortunately, there are widows who maybe their husband died 2 or 3 years ago and they've never let us know that he's passed away. And we'll get a note back. So we're able to upgrade our list there. And in the past campaign, I'm here because there was one large donation that sort of makes me look like a champion. I would like to have a whole lot of $10 and $25 donations. I'd like to have a greater response. Sometimes I'm not sure how effective this is, and I don't, what the office staff knows what the response rate is. But I'd like to see more response rate. I don't think I get a great response from the people on my list. I'm not sure, but I also send a donation card to every physician who treats prostate cancer in my community. That's about 30 or so, including their nurse practitioners and PAs. I do get some donations from them, but at least I know. For example, in order to justify being able to do that, every time the hot sheet comes out, I hand deliver about 30 or 35 of them in the southeast North Carolina area, Wilmington mostly. And I mail about 10 or 12 to people out of town who have connections in town. So those physicians get that. So when I send their card, I indicate, please, doctor, please make a donation to us too. This is from your hot sheet provider, George Gardner. I hope that rings a bell because some of them really actually read it and they like it and they look forward to it. When I don't get there, I'm a week late or something, they wonder where I've been. So that's another way to make this an important appeal. The last thing I'd like to say is that you've got to recruit more campaign helpers. Even when I ask my board, how many personal cards would you like to mail to friends? I'll take one. I'll have one or two. And I said, don't you have more friends than that? Well, the hundreds of excuses. Even the people who help lead our groups make excuses with this campaign. So I have worked to help improve the card in the past by indicating that on some place on the card you have more blank space so we can get a personal message in, and maybe not have it blue so they can't read it, but it's nice and white, they can. So I hope we're making an impact with this campaign. Only the home office knows how well we do with this. The other thing is I've got about 200 or so guys, and I'm doing most of the handwritten cards. So I send about 60% of our group a card each campaign. That means that the guys who got the campaign cards this June got another one last June. And in the fall, those fellows will get one they gave or got a card last fall. I just don't have the energy to do the whole group handwritten all the time. I don't think I have seen a good email solicitation from the home office for this campaign. We have them for this meeting, but I'm still looking for that follow-up email that says, hey, you may have gotten a card from us, but in case you forgot that or got tossed for some reason, why not make a donation online? So that's what we do with our cards, and I'm always looking for suggestions.
Thank you very much. I might add from the home office, we are having impact, but we always need to do more. So the email campaigns will keep coming. There'll be more of them. Anybody who still wants to use those cards, they're available. Talk to Chuck about it in the back. We want to build this campaign. In my mind, we're just starting. So it's a 25th anniversary year. It's a good reason for us to remind people that donations are very important. So next, in terms of being active, we want Matt to go ahead and talk about those of you at least who are golfers in the room, and I know Bill Palos, you are one. There's a chance here to have Matt explain to us what you've been doing, and we appreciate the donations that you've given from your event to us too.
Thanks, Tom. Well, hi everybody. My name's Matt Walt. I am a Chicago resident, but I'm a Kentucky native, and I've moved around a lot since I grew up and got out of college, and somehow or another found my way here to the home office, and I don't know if that was fate or not, but time will tell. So I lead a group down in Louisville, my hometown, about 100 guys that come out every year for a charity golf tournament. We dubbed a long time ago, about 10 years ago, as the Bachelor Classic. So what we do is we get together. It's a standard scramble, and it's evolved over the years, but what we decided early on is that we would donate our proceeds to us too. And just to give you a little history, how it got started is right about the time we graduated from college, a group of us got together and said, okay, let's go have a golf outing. That'll be fun. We'll have a scramble. And we went out and had a good time, and we thought, okay, well, we can do a lot more with this. And I think there were only about 12 of us the first year. And at the end, we said, okay, well, let's throw some money in a pile, and we'll donate it. So that all seemed fine. Then I was left in charge with what to do with the money. And we had a few emails going around, and then we thought, okay, maybe Children's Hospital. Yeah, kids came up a lot. But then one guy came across and said, hey, you know what, my dad has been diagnosed with prostate cancer, and check out this website, us2.org. You might like what you see. And then we went on there and had a look, and it was like, wow, look, there's a blue ribbon that's, like the picker for breast cancer. I had no idea. And we saw this group got started around a kitchen table, just a few people, real grassroots effort. And we saw that, oh, wow, 1 in 6 of us might get prostate cancer one day. Oh, wow, okay, I had no idea. Wow. That's a little bit heavy. So I said, okay, this is obvious. We're a bunch of guys, or we had a dream. We want to be a bunch of guys. We want to grow this. So this makes absolutely perfect sense. So within a few years, so what we started doing is throwing our tournament, getting more people involved, getting actual sponsors, and then we decided, you know what, we should probably, instead of just cut them a check, maybe reach out to them and see how we can do this better, or how we can incorporate some professionalism. And I sent an email to the local chapter leader, Don Stern, and he was really energized and passed my name along to the home office. And next thing you know, I'm getting phone calls and being asked to just explain just what we're doing down there in Louisville, Kentucky. And then over the course of the next few years, we got really great marketing materials. We got put in the hot sheet, or I'm sorry, the newsletter on an annual basis. And we turned it into a really legitimate community of supporters and advocates. And we just celebrated our 10-year anniversary last year, and every year we've been able to make it grow, and it's been fantastic. So let's just give you a little background and to step into why I'm here today, because I don't think a golf tournament's a terribly novel thing. I think there are a lot of these out there supporting various causes, and I think my friends and I are still amateurs at fundraising. We've learned a few things over the years, but where I think we caught lightning in a bottle is when we energized a bunch of guys in their early 20s. They got engaged and they started to care about this organization, and they looked at the future a little bit in the long term and said, wow, okay, we can become advocates and we can spread the word. And we ended up involving local people in our community that have been affected by prostate cancer. They reached out to us. They heard about what we were doing, and we got our fathers involved, my grandfather involved. He's our oldest golfer at 92 years old last year, and he's coming back. So we just love what we've done and really pleased, and we think that model can be replicated, and it probably has been. But I think we took some inspiration. We saw Pints for Prostates, and yeah, we had energy, we had capacity, we had ideas, and then we were able to grab hold of this and run with it. And I think there's probably a lot more room for that out there. There are groups of young guys that just need something. They want to take up a cause, and what better, right? And I see visions of this in Movember and other campaigns that have gone national, and so I think we've got something, and that can be shared with other people around the country. So I'm happy to be involved with us too a little more closely now that I live here, and kind of share the lessons we've learned and continue to do what we're doing back home. So, thank you.
You've got a big smile on my face just listening to you. Your energy, and for all of us who have kids, adult kids, and grandkids, this is an intergenerational issue, isn't it? And part of what these kind of events do is build awareness, don't they? You heard the impact that George has on his chapter as sending out these cards. It's helping him update his list, spreading the word. You're getting back connected to people that may have drifted away. You're an inspiration, man. Rick, we want to hear from Rick but how old are you? 32.
Millennial, but just barely.
That's okay, you're fine.
You're much younger than my son, so it puts it in perspective for me. Rick, you've done just such a yeoman's job. Yesterday I kind of surprised you by asking you a question, so I'm glad you're up here today to guide us, and I know you need help too as well on these events.
I sure do. So I'm here by mistake. For those of you who don't know, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer when I was 47 in 2007, and really shouldn't have been. I think I mentioned during the meeting yesterday the reluctance of my physician to do the exam and check the box. But from that came this idea for Pints for Prostates. I had written about beer for about 30 years, and under anesthesia, mentioned the name to my wife. Seriously, and coming out of it, a few days later, she said, are you serious about that? And I didn't remember uttering the name to her, and I started to get serious about it because I mentioned it to a couple of people, and they said, oh, that sounds interesting. There's nothing for prostate cancer. Nobody could come up with anything. Obviously, there are things, but it's not as prevalent and as promoted as the pink ribbon, which somebody mentioned earlier. I think you're right. We can't try to, we shouldn't try to replicate that and catch up with that. I mean, last year I have on my iPhone a number of photographs. Last year, everything from cat food to air conditioning filters, I found the pink ribbon on it. So, go figure. But anyways, Pints for Prostates, last year we did just over 100 events around the country. And those events take volunteer power. I have a normal job. I do this, yesterday was a vacation day for me off of my job to be at the session, and I know all of you as well. The volunteer power, the fact that you're here, I applaud you for being here. Frankly, with this organization, we should have double or triple the number of people here. The benefits of us too, I hear it time and time again that brotherhood that comes together, the sharing of information. In my own case, when I was first diagnosed, I was told that I had a Gleason 7 and my PSA was 11.1. But in the shock of that, I went home and started the stupidest thing you can do after being diagnosed. I fired up the computer and started to look around, and I saw, wow, people with Gleason 7s and 8s are dying, and I've got an 11. I did not realize I had crossed the numbers over, but in my head, now the one place as I went around and found all sorts of bad information, the one place that turned a really bad weekend into a weekend where I started to have some hope was when I came across the US2 website and got some information that was straightforward and I could understand. So it's very important, and so as we look at Pints for Prostates and what we've done, this weekend, Father's Day is usually a big weekend for us. June and September are our most active. So this weekend we're, I'm here, but we have volunteers in Washington State, Texas, Pennsylvania, and soon to be in California with an event this weekend and getting out there. We had a booth, and a number of you came up and asked, so how do you do a Pints for Prostates event? And my answer is, well, what do you want to do? It's a very easy thing to do. When we started the organization 8 years ago, there were about 1,200 breweries in the country. There's now something like 3,200. They are all potential hosts for a Pints for Prostates event. Beer festivals, there used to be, I know in North Carolina, 4 or 5 festivals a year that took place. Charlotte, the town where I live now, has 7 or 8 beer festivals on its own. Those are all places that we could put up a Pints for Prostates booth at a festival. What it takes is manpower. For instance, I mentioned the events that we have this weekend. I know a couple of people in the room mentioned to me that they have gone out, Flying Saucer Draft Emporium. There's 16 of those around the country. During the month of June, they've been holding awareness nights for us every Wednesday. And so if you're in Texas, Arkansas, Tennessee, South Carolina, North Carolina, or Missouri, there's one more Wednesday left in the month. Take a look at their website, and it's a low-key event. There's information there for people, but somebody coming in who has been affected by the disease, who can, over a pint of beer, the conversations that you can have, it lowers people's guards and this taboo. This organization was started 25 years ago. I think that we're 25 to 30 years behind women and their ability to talk about breast cancer and other diseases. We're just starting to get there. We're catching up. It used to be we're probably 40 years behind. I think we're only 25 behind now. So we're getting there. And we have events coming up in July in Asheville and in Portland, but to talk about what we do at a beer festival, it is as simple as contacting the organizer, referencing Pints for Prostates, and seeing if they're interested. We've built a pretty good reputation in the beer industry. In the last 8 years, most people have heard of the cause. A lot of the magazines will run free pro bono ads for us, so a lot of the festival organizers know who we are. And they're willing to give you a table under a tent to be there, and we can supply you with a box of materials that include, T-shirts, signage. We have info cards. We had an infographic card that we just produced that talks about the risk factors for prostate cancer and gives some statistics. We run into men at all of these events who are in high-risk groups who don't know that they are. So we try to do this. The breweries and beer bars that are out there, those are also fertile ground for us to have awareness events. And if you can time them for either June around Father's Day or September because of Prostate Cancer Awareness Month, it takes the personal contact and asking, and in most cases those individuals have been touched by this disease and they're very willing to show some support and host an event. Chad's one of our super volunteers, I think in San Diego, our presence has grown because of one guy, and we have other volunteers like Chad. Unfortunately, not enough of them, and I know that's one of the things that you all struggle with your local support groups. It's getting guys energized, but the one thing that we have found, in some cases, it's not the prostate cancer patient that's or survivor that is the best person. It's the son, it's the brother, it's others who want to show some support. The daughters, my daughters come out and when we first started this, came out and volunteered and worked with us. They want to show their support for their dads and stuff. So, Tom, that's a little bit about Pints for Prostates. And please, you can go to our Facebook page. That social media aspect of it, it doesn't take much to like PD and share a PD post. To share something that Us Two puts up or one of the other organizations, it's a click, and I invite you all to not only like the Us Two Facebook page, but to like the Pints for Prostates Facebook page and Twitter feed. And if you see something that we put up that you like, move that little finger and share it, because you don't know who it's going to reach in your network who might need the information. So thank you.
Thanks so much. You may have noticed before we had the donors on of this event up there. Pints for Prostates is a donor for this event. We appreciate all you're doing, Rick, not only to raise awareness, but also to raise a little money on the side, as you've always said. I quote you all the time. This kind of action is meant to deliver a message to you that one person can do more than you realize you can do. This is meant to empower you to find the things you like in your life. Who thought, your story from being a beer geek would turn out to be a major prostate cancer awareness builder? So this, Rick is a role model for all of us. He's a former board member of Us Two, and we want to switch now to have Chad stand up and tell your story. But Chad is on our board of directors, as you've noticed, and I should do a little quick commercial to say Us Two is looking for some board members. We have a board structure that turns people over, and so we always want to look for new members of the board. We currently have 2 vacancies on the board. So this is a quick commercial. Let me know if you have people who you think would make a great person on the board of directors. So Chad?
Morning, thank you. So much of what's been said is, I would echo, and I want to add a little bit of my perspective. I would not be here if it not be what Rick was doing. So you talk about the power of one. I'm at a beer festival in Portland, Oregon, and Dad was diagnosed in 2006, so I believe this is 2009. And I see this booth, it's Pints for Prostates. They got these really ugly, bright orange shirts. But the deer hunters love them. Yeah, they do. So, and I have to have a shirt. This is great. I'm excited. And didn't meet Rick at the time. It was just other volunteers working the booth. And I'm like, how do I get involved? What do I need to do? And he said, well, this is the person you'd want to contact. And I don't remember how the interaction went, whether it was phone or email, but I just remember asking Rick, how can I help? And he's like, well, what do you want to do? We're as grassroots as it gets, buddy. So I was living in Nevada at the time, and so I just said, okay, what am I doing? I'm going to find a beer festival. I got to find something. There's a pretty prominent liquor store that has throughout the entire city in Henderson, real close to Nevada, in Las Vegas. And they were having their beer event. So I just got on the phone and called someone and said, hey, here's who I am, here's what I want to do. And, well, that sounds okay. Yeah, we'll give you a table. So the next thing I know, I've got some balloons, pints for prostates balloons, some shirts, and they kind of set me up in the corner, and everyone else is drinking the beer. But I just walked around, started talking to people, and I thought, well, that wasn't so bad. It was pretty easy. So I did another couple events in Nevada, and then I made it back to San Diego, where I went to school. And I just, with the craft beer situation that's there in San Diego, I just started to then make contacts and make calls out. Stone is a very large craft beer, but they're big, in terms of the size. And so I reached out to them just because I know that everyone knew who Stone was. And they had an anniversary event. And it was just a quick conversation with their community individual, having lunch with him, talking about what we wanted to do. And their anniversary celebration is closed to all outside vendors. So it is their function. They support, they really underwrite the Boys and Girls Club and a few other things. And they said, Chad, we designate funds to them. And I said, I'm not trying to take that money from anyone. I just want an opportunity to talk them in. And just with that, you can have a booth. And so this will be I want to say this will be year 5 here in August that I've had the opportunity to be at that event. And there's really no other individual in terms of a nonprofit that's allowed, and there's no vendors. So just something like that, you're able to get to a min. But the other thing I would share about not only just Pints for Prostates and making that difference, because now Rick suddenly creates this advocate, as I'm tracing my dad through his progression. My dad, unfortunately, stage 4, it's metastasized in the ribs. But as I've followed him, then I learned a lot more about us too. And so, okay, now I need to get involved at this level. It's more than just awareness. And so what I'm learning now is it's not just a matter of me having to go out and do it. There are companies willing to support you. I happen to work for a great company, Union Bank. We're based in the West Coast. We're owned by a parent company, Mitsubishi, and they have a foundation. And so it was just a matter of filling out some information about here's what they are. We're a 501c3. Here's what S2 supports. Here's the event that's going on. I filled it out. By the way, I happen to be on the board, and they've made a donation to support the walk we're going to have in September. So even if I don't want to get out there and talk to people if that's not your thing, you can get on the web, and there are other foundations that are willing to give money. So it's just a matter of doing some web searches, things of that nature. You might be able to find a way that I can get some support for your area or for us too, the parent. And I would just encourage you to do that. There are banks that are chartered by having to give back to certain underserved communities. It's how we are able to grow as a bank. So we have to have what's called CRA credit. And so they are looking for opportunities to give back to what would be considered an underserved community, and it's defined by census tract information. And so if you're going to go do a screening event in an area that they would be considered underserved, they have dollars that they need to give and they're looking for. So I think there's a huge untapped potential there where we can be reaching out to companies that are foundations, and the applications are all so similar that really the workload is not that bad. Once you get it done, it's just answering questions in a different way. So that would be my sort of 2 cents that I wanted to give. One, not only can you spark someone that becomes an advocate, that's my situation, thanks to Rick and his organization, but also there are ways that can help that if, even if you don't have the time to get out and do something, you might be able to take just a few minutes and get support and spread the word. So that's what I would share with the group. Thank you.
Maybe so you can see me a little bit better and I'm not just a head talking down there. First of all, thanks to everybody here on the panel. So can we have another round of applause for these guys? We want to get you up out of your chairs in a minute, and you see those 3 boards back there, those flip charts, old technology, I guess, for us, right? we want you to do some work for the next about 10 minutes. I know it's fast and hard here, but we want to get you working a little bit. The issue is we want you to share with each other your own experiences and needs that you have, barriers to get over to get you sparked and get you going to raise some money. And I'll say one quote that I've heard a lot, which came from a nun, a charitable nun. And the quote is, "No money, no mission." No money, no mission. You know, we all want to do good in here, and we all want to raise awareness. You have passion. The bottom line is you need to act on that passion. You have in this room people who share your passion, and people know a lot by sharing with each other. The guys up here in the panel were meant to spark you, so I want you to, on this side, go to that flip chart. This side, you guys go in the middle here, go to that flip chart. Everybody else go over here. As soon as you get there, designate somebody to scribble up on the board. Terry's there, Amy's in the middle here. So get up, get going. Thank you. First of all, I appreciate everybody getting up there, making ideas. I can't read the board from here. I'm not that good. I'm not that young anymore. But we're ready to report out. So let's start with the West Coast area here. You got the ball.
Yes, okay, we had a number of very interesting ideas. First one is to somewhat target wealthy communities in your local areas.
Target the wealthy communities?
For example, in South Florida, there are a number of wealthy, more elderly residents who might be willing to contribute. The grants, it was noted that grants are becoming more and more difficult. And one question that, as an international chapter, we had was to target opportunities from the U.S. Department of Foreign Affairs.
Oh, good idea.
I'm sure that if there are any other international groups or chapters, that might be a good thing. The idea of focusing on personal stories, it was thought that personal stories may be a good way to get persons to donate.
You bet. In fact, that's what it's all about to a large degree, is tell your personal story. You know what that is. You don't need to be uncomfortable at all about telling your personal story, right?
Yeah. Next, we wanted to target personal friends and to get your personal friends to, again, share your stories to personal friends and have them translate or disseminate your story on your behalf.
Although sometimes people are afraid to ask their friends. It's a little spooky because your friends might ask you back for a donation later. But that's fair. If they give you $50, you give them 50 back. It's a wash, right? You're not behind.
I don't recall exactly what the idea was. Baby boomers. We thought that baby boomers might perhaps more willing to talk about issues around prostate cancer and the issues of sex and prostate cancer, and that might be a good segue into soliciting contributions as well.
I like the sound of that, all right? Baby boomers, peace, love, rock and roll, right? We're up front, we talk about this stuff, right? And so we've got to lead the direction for our kids and for our grandkids, so yes.
Yeah. And finally, younger persons. We thought that getting at the younger generation could be a very good way of establishing continuity as well, and also getting some more creative ideas in terms of raising funds.
And that energy that younger generation has, right? Look at Matt up here.
Exactly.
Wow, what energy he brought, what excitement. And people care about their granddads and their dads, right? So this is very important. Let's give the West Coast crowd a applause.
I won't
And just a little thing I'd like to underline is that remember, this is, as Rick always says, to raise awareness. That's really what we're doing here from a programmatic side. This is our mission. to raise awareness for people. And then if we make a little money on the side to cover our expenses and help us fuel our efforts forward, people are willing to give resources to make sure that you're telling your story, and we've got to come out from behind the shadows. It's an important part of our mission to raise awareness and tell our stories, because we've let the media distort the stories about prostate cancer, right? That it's a slow-growing cancer, that you're going to die from something else. You don't need to get screened. And we have to tell our story, right, Bob? Exactly, because and that's part of what we're doing, is defining what prostate cancer really is. Okay, in the Midwest, what do we have to say? Yeah, hey, from the Midwest, huh?
From the Midwest.
Yes.
Okay, from the Midwest, of course, at the top of our list is going to be expanding Pints for Prostate events.
All right.
Having a better understanding from the people here, you know, and from the Pints for Prostate founders, kind of fired us up a little bit. So that was really at the top of our list. One of the things that we were concerned about was engaging partners and spouses and really reaching out to them to incorporate our fundraising efforts. Some of the things that were done, one was a sweetheart banquet, and I guess they passed out roses for the women, and they just had a great time, and they asked to do it again. So it's just reaching out, finding organizations that will sponsor and allow you to hold these events would be beneficial and very personal. And then we talked about women concerned with their men, and again, reaching out to the women, you know, family, daughters, granddaughters, you know, and children in general, to work with us to help us expand on us too and fundraising.
I remember from Texas, I think it was Houston, they had a Save the Males campaign.
One of our other people in our group from the Ohio area, I believe, did a pasta for prostates, and they got different like venues to donate pans of pastas. They went to churches and they sold tickets and they raised money that way.
Fantastic.
And then we had a lot of other creative ideas. We just ran out of time of putting them down on paper, but the one thing that we did talk about in the group also was remembering at the end of the year that Us Too is a foundation, and just like we give money to other organizations at the end of the year when we write a check, let's write a check to Us Too for the donation.
That campaign that George talked about is we do twice a year now. We've got the one card on the table now. What George was talking about, we will have again this fall, so at the end of the year, people can use those cards. And it is important to remind people that Us Too is a worthy charity, and prostate cancer as a cause is extremely important because it sort of has been on the back burner. So creating awareness is so important. Let's have a round of applause for the Midwest. I particularly like the idea of drinking beer here for the cause, right? So I noticed you bellied up to the bar on the first one here. And Pints does really need our support as volunteers. So the one thing that Us Too has are all of you and the volunteers. What a great thing to do to raise awareness and drink a little beer here along the way. Let's hear from the East Coast. Now, I would have thought Ohio might have been over on the East Coast, but what the heck? You straddle sort of the Midwest and the East Coast. Go
I'm
ahead.
from Tennessee. I didn't know I was on the East Coast, but here I am. All right. Well, this is the national campaign. This is an international campaign.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. We talked about, okay, the first one was partnering with, and these are activities that are currently going on, partnering with sporting events that are already in existence. Right, during Prostate Cancer Awareness Month, also with local high schools and colleges, to tap into existing organizational fundraisers, music festivals, corporations to wear jeans, blue jeans, donate money, proceeds from local marathons and walks, and Us Too walk. When donations are made, send personal thank you letters to the donors to let them know where your money went and to do a personal handwritten note. And this will activate repeat donations, put a personal touch on it. The next one is we need to focus on efforts on advanced prostate cancer, which we've heard some about, but I've been in contact also. I've got a phone number and email addresses to concentrate on advanced prostate cancer. I'm an advanced prostate cancer survivor, and I know many others, but most of the literature and the research that I hear about is not for advanced prostate cancer. So we want to jump that start off, okay? And I didn't write here. I wasn't here.
So this was a fun, it says home invasions, but they're friendly home invasions. So this is a fundraiser, and where's the gentleman that this is idea? So thank you, chime in. So the friendly home invasion is you know your community, you know people in your neighborhood, you find someone who has a big, awesome, grand home that can invite lots of influential friends who have tons of money, and you use their home and invite these people. You don't formally present to them, but talk to them kind of virally about the cause and why you're doing this. And these people literally come, write checks, and give a donation. So I thought that was really kind of cool, friendly home invasion. So that was kind of unique and innovative, and just tap into the people who have the money, who'd be philanthropic and interested in supporting the cause. No Shave Movember, and feel free, whoever came up with this idea. So it's a takeoff on November where we tell people don't shave. Corporations allow their employees to donate money and raise money. They sell buttons, I wear my beard for. So I think the general theme here was tapping into your community, understand the things that are already happening, and getting them engaged and supportive of us too. So it's not kind of just creating, it's tapping into what exists and kind of bringing them onto the cause.
That's fantastic. Let's hear it for the East Coast, or Tennessee, the volunteer state in particular. Amy?
Hi, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Amy Woods, and I am the development director on staff now for Us Too. I've been involved since January. I have been involved with the Sea Blue Walk since its start, and I want to remind everybody that yes, we have a 1,200, 1,300 person event every September, but it started with 3 people. It started with 2 wives and a man saying, we want to do something. We want to do something like breast cancer. There's nothing in Chicago like this. This was 11 years ago. I came on board as a consultant because I had some expertise in putting on a run. And look what we've built. So any idea you have, we can help you get there. And that's what I'm here for. So I just wanted to make sure you know who I am, what my face is. When you see my name on the piece of paper or on the website, it's me, and I encourage ideas, creative talk, discussion, and I'm really excited that you're all here in this seminar today. Thanks.
Thanks, Amy. The home office staff is here for you to help you with these events. You can tell we're limited in our time, but we are here as a resource for you to help. You heard Matt talk about the golf event. What we've done is we have availability for him to register for the walk event on our website. We have helped people sponsor different events. We're here to do that for you. And also, those of you who have an Us Too support group, Bill Palos, I asked him to make sure that got up on the board. But Bill, one of our past board members and a regional volunteer, has been around. He reminded me twice as long as I've been around in Us Too. And Bill is very active in his community on walk events, golf events, closest to the pin events, and is for years and years now making sure that he raises money locally. And what we do is, for many of you, almost 50 of the support groups now, we serve as your banker so that we can make sure under our not-for-profit umbrella, you guys can raise money, you can help with our coaching, figure out how you spend that money. Some people who are here today have used money that they've raised for local events to come here to this event, and that's exactly what we want to happen. Remember, this is a shared responsibility for the Us Too mission. It can't be done alone by the home office or the board of directors or me as your CEO or Amy or the rest of us as staff. We have an opportunity here for all of you to share responsibility, raise awareness, which is part of the reason we exist as an organization, and raise a little money on the side. It makes these kind of events possible. It makes that hot sheet possible, and all of your efforts are so important. This is part of, remember what I wish I knew that nun's name, but Sister whoever, remember what? No money, no mission, right? And we're not here to just have fun together, although that's exactly part of what we need to do. And on the staff side, we talk about we're partying for prostates. But the good times we have, the quality of life that we have, it's important that we have a mission for us because it feels good, doesn't it, to spread the word, tell the story, raise some money on the side. So thanks for being in this session, but during the break, we're going to turn on the very first video about the Sea Blue event in Chicago, and we can help you do these events elsewhere, and there will be one in Rochester in September as well.